Hi guys, I am back. Welcome to Lisa's Love and Light. I had to take a break yesterday, guys, because I was like exhausted. I had to take a small break and get some rest because, like I said before, I was getting some rest, but I wasn't getting a lot of rest. So I needed to rest and take care of myself so that I'm okay. And sometimes it's important to do that, guys. Take care of yourself, make sure you're okay. And that, once you're okay, you can rejuvenate after resting and come back bigger and better. So that's what I had to do. I had to actually, get some rest. And so I'm back today. I feel a lot better. I felt like I was getting a cold and just lethargic and all of that other stuff. So I was able to rest, and here I am. It is hotter than hell today, guys. So make sure you have some ice water. Um, Make sure if you have like water to you know keep hydrated because it's about 94 degrees right now. And let me tell you guys something before we get into this message today. I was debating on Sunday whether I should put the AC in the window or not. And I was like, I don't know. I don't feel like doing this, but thank God I did because I wouldn't be able to be in here right now. And it feels comfortable with the AC on. I just wouldn't be able to stay in here, especially, with this heat. And it's going to be hot too tomorrow, the same way. So make sure you have water, whatever it is, but water mostly for me because, to stay hydrated. And then, keep some ice nearby. I had a bottle of ice water this morning and it melted in no time. So that shows you how hot it is today and tomorrow. We got a heat wave alert. So take care of yourself. Make sure you're staying hydrated and you're resting, guys. Don't overdo it, especially in this weather. So thank you for being here, guys. Thank you for being patient. I did post that I wasn't going to develop a video yesterday, and I just couldn't. I just know when my body tells me I got to stop, I got to stop. I'm learning to do that. Whereas before, I would just keep going. But I don't do that anymore, especially as I get older, guys. So self-care. Um, so that's the topic of discussion today, self-care. Take care of yourself. Before we get into that, know that I talk and speak from a space of my own stories and situations that I've gone through and how I overcame, instead of succumbing to it. So perhaps you'll hear something in these videos that will resonate with your own situation and it can help you, you know. The more we share, the more we talk about things, the more we can heal. And the more we heal, we can grow and we can keep our mental and physical health healthy instead of deteriorating from the toxicity around us. Remember, I'm not a therapist or a social worker or a counselor, just someone who's going through a lot of hell and talk about ways to come back from things. Never allow anyone to tell you that there's not a resolution to whatever your circumstance or situation is. I've heard that a lot in my past. And I'm a type of person, there's got to be a way, there's got to be a different way to do things. Like I always use as an example in prior videos that it's just like the algebra problem and say the end result is the number 5. If I do work out the formula one way and you work it out a different way, as long as we come to the same end result, which is number 5, it doesn't matter as long as we both get to the same end result. And that's how life is sometimes. Sometimes you go through things, you have to sit and look at life and situations and circumstances from a different perspective. That's what I had to do. Because when you feel like walls are closing in on you, problems are piling up like a domino effect. You may start to feel overwhelmed. When those things were happening, I was in prayer and fasting. And then I would sit in a quiet space, and then with the help of God, I would come up with a different perspective or on how to take care of this problem or situation. And life is going to be full of problems and challenges. We just have to find a way to overcome instead of succumbing to them. Nothing ventured is nothing gained. So it's important, to find ways to keep protecting our physical and mental health. Because without that, like I always say in these videos, we can't take care of ourselves, do anything for ourselves, or help anyone else. So it's always important. If you need a timeout, take that time out. It doesn't matter what noise people are making around you. It's important to always self-care so that you can be in the best space that you can be, And I had to learn that the hard way a couple of times in the past. But now I take those breaks when it's necessary. So guys, find ways on a daily basis to self-care. I use music. I like roses. It's probably time to get some more flowers, guys. And I just like to be in a space of peace. Once you get to acquire inner peace, you won't let that go, guys. You won't let anything interfere with that. That's not up for compromise, for sale, or anything. Because I've been in a toxic space for far so long that my peace is priceless to me. And when people want to disturb that, I cut off, block, and delete. There's no conversation about blah, blah, cut off, block, and delete. Why? Because why would someone want to disturb your peace? You're at peace. You're healing. That's the next thing I want to talk about here. Why is it that people they don't want to see you heal, right? They don't want to see you grow. Okay, they don't have to look at it. They don't have to be there while you're doing these things. But here's where the problem presents itself. Why would they want to stop you from healing and growing? And it's like, okay, you don't want to see it, you don't want to be a part of it, okay, then you stay over there. Why would someone come towards you to try to interrupt your peace and to bring all types of toxicity to your front door? That's when I go into prayer and I talk to God about it and ask him to do what's necessary so I can stay in this space of peace and growth. Because it's like that metaphor I always use, crabs in a barrel. One crab is crawling, trying to get to the top, and finally that crab gets to the top, and you got 10 here that's dragging him or her right back to the bottom. Don't be that crab that someone drags you back to the bottom. You need to heal, you need to grow and take care of yourself. Sometimes, we have to set those strong boundaries. And sometimes, in my case, I just had to walk away, close the door, cut off, block, and delete. Because some people, it doesn't require an explanation because they don't really care. They don't care about your peace or healing. And if you have to explain that over and over again, that becomes a problem within itself. So what I do is just cut off, block, and delete. And sometimes you have to walk away from situations and you don't have to give a specific explanation. Toxic individuals come with a whole toxic package. And sometimes people just don't know how to stop, interfering in other people's business. What I have a problem with too at times is that people were so fixated on what I had going on, what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, that they forget about their own life and own situation. And that's pathetic to me because I'm so busy, guys. I don't have time for drama, negativity, what someone else has going on or don't have going on. I'm not concerned with it. The old version of myself too, before I started to heal, was never concerned with those things as well. To each his own. We don't have a right to play God in somebody else's life. And when somebody wants to play God in your life, I see it like this, that those individuals they don't have control of their own life. They are so miserable and so at the bottom of the barrel that they need to be involved with something. And all this work that they put into trying to distract and disturb your peace, if they put all that effort and boil it up together and put that into healing themselves, they would be phenomenal individuals. Instead of worrying about what you got going on and who, what, why, and where, which is none of their concern. No one gets to play God in your life. Do not allow people to do that. And do not feel guilty for telling them that they don't have a right to do that. Nobody has the right to follow you, see what you're doing, what you have going on, especially if you cut these folks off a long time ago. That's some of the things that I had to deal with. No means no. If I cut you off, it's because we had conversations before, and I don't do toxicity at all at this point. I mean, we all have our days. Nobody's perfect. And I'm not talking about imperfections. I'm talking about toxic behavior that affects your mental and physical health. Abuse situations, whether it's verbal or physical. And it keeps going on and on and on. And then you disconnect from it. And then you reconcile. And it's good for a minute and it goes on and on. And it doesn't have to just be a romantic connection. It could be family members. I find them to be the most difficult because just because you share DNA, they think you owe them something. You don't owe anybody anything unless you have small, minor children that you're responsible for. You don't owe these folks anything. And what I had to learn through therapy and the healing process is not to allow myself to feel guilty for saying no. No, I can't help you. I'll pray for you. I can't help you with anything else. Because I was a doormat for far too long. And people, oh yeah, Lisa, yeah, go get it from her. She'll give you what you need. If you need this or that, that kind of thing. Go get, tell her you'll pay her back or whatever and just forget about it or whatever. People were doing things like that, using me, abusing. And I was just, because of the way I grew up. Remember I said in prior videos that broken mindset, growing up with a broken mindset, thinking because I'm a woman and that I have to put myself on a back burner while I succumb and be subservient to the needs and wants of others. And that God will see that more than me taking care of myself. That doesn't even make sense what I just said, guys, at all. But I had to recondition the broken mindset and take the pieces of it and put it back together, and it wasn't easy. Because how I put it back together besides therapy is doing that pro and con list, looking at what I was bringing to the table and giving and what other people were giving, and they wasn't. They were just taking and taking. And so I had to change that around. It's not easy when you grow up with a specific mindset thinking it should be this way. Now you find out that you can do things differently. When you see things from a different perspective, then you don't have to fall for the things that you've been taught all your life, because you can turn it around and do it like this. And as I continue to see things from a different perspective and not from that broken mindset, I was able to turn my life around with God, in prayer. I'm not religious, but I definitely connected to God in so many ways, because God has helped me when I was at my lowest point. I couldn't get up, couldn't do anything, and there was no person there motivating me and saying, yay, Lisa, come on, you can do this. I had to get myself up, whether I felt well or not, and do the best I could. But I kept going to God, and He kept helping me. And I know some people may not believe in Him, but God is real, let me tell you, because the miracles that He created in my life, it comes from no other place but Him. And it's not luck or any of that stuff, and I'll get to those topics of discussion in the future. But today we're going to talk about self-care, taking care of yourself. And this is part of taking care of yourself when you set those strong boundaries with other people who want to cross those boundaries and bring toxicity to your mental and physical health. Guys, you have a right to say no to things that are not for your highest good. You have a right to say no to things that are going to affect in a negative manner your physical and mental health. You have a right to just say no so that you can stay in a place of peace and continue to take care of yourself. After you self-care daily and you start to feel good and feel better, you do better. And one of the things that you do better is self-love. And then you get to the point of care, self-love, and then you get to that inner peace. And what people are saying or doing or how they're doing it, it no longer affects you because you are at a space of growth, healing. And not everybody want to do the work because it's not easy. Some people rather take from others. I did a video not too long ago about that, about building on a solid foundation. And when people take from others, they're not building on a solid foundation. They're building their house on a shaky, as I use as a metaphor, on a shaky ground. And eventually the whole house of cards is going to collapse because it wasn't built the right way. But when you do the work, build yourself up and heal from the inside out, you can be that best version of yourself, because now as you done the work, you can give your best to all situations instead of half-stepping. You know, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's better than the other, but you learn lessons. And I talk about that a lot. People, situations, redundant circumstances that keep playing itself out in our life, we have to sit and think about it. Why does this situation keep reappearing? Problems, that don't seem to entirely go away. And I had to sit in that energy and see things from a different perspective. And what I saw and learned is that people, circumstances, and situations come into our lives for a reason, a season, a lifetime, or a lesson. And I had all these unlearned lessons because I was making 1,000 excuses for toxic behavior. Well, she don't feel well, or this happened, so blah, blah, and just letting people say and do whatever, etc. And nobody has a right to disrespect you or to bring toxicity to your table just because they have a situation that's going on, And I had to learn how to just say no, because I started to carry other people's burdens along with my burdens. It's too heavy. Can't do it. I had to throw those burdens off my back and just focus on myself and healing, being at a place of space of peace, tranquility. And sometimes people don't like that, especially the toxic ones, and they see you're just calm and at peace. They want to come and boom, throw some toxicity at your table. I'm going to tell you the secret to that, for me, how it works. I give no attention to abusers and toxic people and situations because they're looking for a fight. Some people are just so miserable that they want to drag other folks into their misery. So sometimes people just come up and start trouble for no reason at all. I had a situation like that probably a couple of months ago, and I just stared at the person, and just no words, no nothing, just stood there and stared. Because when you engage in that kind of situation, then you are giving attention to the toxicity and the negativity. I refuse to do that at this point of this journey, because I used to do that. They don't care. Toxic, narcissistic individuals, anything that you give them, any little attention, whether it's negative or positive, they think that you're still invested in whatever situation you have with them, whether it's a family, romantic, whatever. But when you give zero attention to it, then they don't have anything to fight with because you're not throwing anything back out there. And this is what I give my 1,000,000% silence to the situation, and they don't have anything to play with once you do it that way. And that's what I had to do, because people just wouldn't leave me alone. Coming and doing, starting trouble, coming here, coming from every direction. Okay, that didn't work. We're going to twist it and go around the corner and bring it up like this and blah, blah. No reaction. Unless they are in my space like this, then, jail and a restraining order, because that's what it was going to come down to. I don't play when it comes to my peace, my growth, and my healing. Because if you guys, little by little, I'm telling you what I've gone through. Some of this stuff I haven't gotten to yet that I've gone through, that no person, one person can go through that alone by themselves, But I draw my strength from God. I'm not saying others can't, but I'm just saying a lot of people would not come back from the things I went through. I did a video on Friday about 9/11 and how I was in the midst of that. I wasn't in a building or anything like that, but I was in a mist, and I saw the planes hit both times, and the smoke thickening, making it difficult to breathe. It's just a whole bunch of stuff. People dropping off buildings because it was either a choice of getting burned up or jumping. No other choice they had. And it's just people came together under those circumstances, because the world we live in today is full of hate. People just showing their true colors now. The masks have fallen off, and you see who people truly are. But what I can appreciate about the 9/11 situations, that people didn't care about gender, race, or any of that. They all came together to help one another. And we need to get back to that space, because the world is spinning on misery and destruction and hate. And nothing good comes from that. But sometimes people have to go through lessons and learn them before they can get it. Because we can talk to certain people all day, all night, but they're just not going to get it until they go through it. Like I said, lessons. People could, back then, when I was going through these things, people could talk to me. I had a few people talk to me about certain situations, but I had to, the lesson or the blessing, so I had to learn the lessons the hard way. And when those lessons come back again, and that will spin again, the lesson is going to come back hitting you harder and harder until the lesson is learned. You can't close out a cycle if you're not learning a lesson, and you keep going back to situations that are not for your highest good. And those situations are physically affecting your mental and physical health. And I know what those situations look like, even if someone put on a massive deception, because I went through it 1,000 times before I decided to say, okay, God, enough of this. And then I looked at those situations from a different perspective, and then I started to do the work. And then as I said no to things and really meant it, I start to close out cycles. And then when you close out those cycles, you can close and padlock those doors over here, and God will bring you over here to better situations, better people, better circumstances. And I'm living proof of that, with no help around me, no family, but God and God and just me doing the work and moving forward without knowing how the end results are going to be. Walking by faith and not by sight, and I see God doing the work. One day at a time, guys, one step at a time, because nothing ventured is nothing gained. So never let yourself get to a place of despair. Continue to move forward and talk to God like I'm talking to you in this video. You don't have to have any rehearsed prayers, memorized prayers. Just talk to Him from your heart within, and like I said, God will answer you. You have to do the work, though. You can't sit back and say, pray and then do nothing. You have to work in accordance to everything that you're asking for. Remember, nothing ventured is nothing gained. One day at a time, one step at a time. And as you continue to stay on that path, we fall, you get back up and dust yourself off and keep going. And then you will start to see those results. And that's how it worked here for me. And I'm here talking to you because I know these videos I'm doing, somebody's going to listen and hear these videos, and they may resonate with the message because they might be currently going through these type of situations. But never give up, guys, because we're talking about you, and you are just as important as the next person. That's the message today. Thank you for being here. Please share this message with those who need to hear it. Subscribe to the channel. And not only subscribe to the channel, like the video, invite others here. And if you guys have time, take a look at my online store. There's products there as well that you might be interested in. And You know, I'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure of the time, but I will be here, and I'll probably be later on, and just show up and hear the message and pass it along. Thank you for being here. This is Lisa shedding love and light. You guys stay hydrated, lots of water, keep taking care of you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now, guys.